So we've just had Brexit, which is, I suppose you could fill up the news with that all day long, but I was watching a programme called This Week on the BBC. We're on the 30th of March 2017. And there's a guy on there, Michael Portillo, who pointed out something which is not something that had come to the fore previously. And they're talking about sending us a bill, sending the UK a bill for departing from Europe, this exit that Britain's going to do, which is short-handed to Brexit. There's a kind of analogy here with a business. When Britain leaves and is no longer engaged with the business of Europe so intimately that it has to pay to keep the business of Europe running, that means Germany is going to be the big one. There's still France, but it's a little bit in the doldrums, France, at the moment, though it's still a country in pretty good shape. But you're left in a situation where if they think they need to give Britain a 50 billion, B for Bertie, billion pound bill at the end, which is in 18 months' time or whenever you think it would be, we apparently have commitments to go on to about 2020, and apparently if you just work those commitments out, they come to about 30 billion pounds, I assume, which is a lot of money, but you can make a reasoned case for it, as Andrew Neil was saying on This Week programme that he hosts. But it was pointed out by Portillo that who used to be a Conservative minister. It's pointed out that there was the danger that you're just left with Germany, really, the big hitter, to pay the bill. This brings a lot of questions to mind. This is an over-dependence on one big hitter in the 27 country European Union that's left when Britain leaves, because we're the 28th member, although we joined about 7 or 8 or something. Pardon me. So this reminds me of the dependency that a company has on one or two customers, because that's your revenue stream, that's your money coming in. Where's it coming from? You should have somebody in your company that analyses this to make sure you're on top of it and has some contingency plans for issues that might arise. When I left university, one of the several university polytechnics, they were called then, some of them, which is like lower grade university. A big college, a lower grade university was called a polytechnic. Not your Russell Group, Oxford and Cambridge stuff, but I was down in Sheffield and I did this course, and when I left I had a choice of 2 jobs. One of them was in a company called Perkins, which is renowned the world over for making diesel engines, diesel generators and stuff like that, but engines of one sort or another. I think they've become Travis Perkins since then. And the only reason I didn't take that job, I saw around their facility and I sat there little tests on they tested you on your basic knowledge of internal combustion and the Otto cycle and stuff. And I looked around and, as a guy in his mid-20s, the facilities were pretty good. It's just that it was a little bit out in the sticks. It was over towards the east side, as you look at it on the map, the right-hand side as it will be to you of the map. And it's in the north-east side of England, and I just thought, what if I lose that job? Where would I get another job in the area? But perhaps I shouldn't have worried so much about that. Anyway, in the end I didn't take that job. I took a job instead with a company called Holdsworth Electronic Developments. And this is a little company at the time that was in Harrogate in the north of England. It's a bit more central because it's just literally, although it's not in the same part of the county as it were, it's just a few miles away from Leeds, which is a relatively big city in Yorkshire. So having got that job, they obviously did electronics. One of the things they did was readouts for coal machines, and it's kind of a very tough 1/2 inch thick steel fascia, about letterbox sized, UK letterbox size. And then there's some electronics in the back. There's a hole in the middle where you can see this digital readout, which is quite advanced for the time. And basically, I came to realise you mounted this on a large coal cutting machine that then went into the mine underground. Because we still had British coal at the time, you see. The thing is, though, it was, we only made that for 2 customers, and one of them was British coal. And then the other one was, I forget the name of the company, but they basically made machines that British coal bought. And when you added these two together, that came to 70% of Holdsworth's revenue. And obviously Holdsworth knew this wasn't a good thing, but there wasn't a lot they could do about it. If that's where your money comes from, yes, you explore other ideas. And Mr. Holdsworth was a great guy. The company was named after him. He was a great guy, good with electronics, and he did all the design work on a lot of it. And then he had some connections, which meant that when he had to let people go because the inevitable happened, the coal industry was going through a hard time, and Thatcher was in power. And he put in a word for me, so from that company, he actually put in a word so I could get a job with a company called Farnell Electronics, just over the way in Wetherby. And I worked there for 4 weeks until I got a much better paid job in Leeds. But I am grateful to him for sorting that out, because of all the places I've ever been made redundant from, that was the only place where somebody actually sorted you out a job for when you left. So Mr. Holdsworth, that's a salutation. But the problem the company had was the problem lots of companies have. They get a very good product or two, they sell very well to a couple of customers, and those customers are the ones that pay all the bills and all the wages and everything else. The leases on the buildings, cars, whatever. It wasn't that lavish a company, but British Coal in the end was 70% of his business. So as soon as British Coal had any trouble really and stopped ordering, that was it. And so they went round people saying, look, sorry to give the bad news, but you no longer get a job. And you get 4 weeks notice or whatever, and off you go. And the European Union is a little bit like that. It's, with us there was a big triumvirate. There's the UK, there's Germany, there's France, not in any particular order, but Germany would be the one that made the most money probably. And that triumvirate financially holds it together. Not every other country, but most other countries are net losses. So when Donald Tusk, who seems like a decent enough chap, I like him a lot better than Jean-Claude Junckers anyway. I don't like the look of Junckers at all, just from what I see and what I hear him say. But Donald Tusk definitely was rather sad, and so he should be. Perhaps they should have thought of this and gone a little bit more the British way. So the euro we knew was going to be a problem. Schengen we didn't like the look of. Is that too much to ask that they could have bent a little bit on those things and on immigration, which is Schengen related? So once we go, they've realised now, far too late, they should have really bent quite a lot with us. Once we go, it's going to be down to Germany to pay all the bills. Now it's one thing for Germany, France and Britain to shoulder the burden of European loss-making countries. It's quite another for Germany to do it almost alone with a bit of help from France. It turns out the UK is the second donor to European finances. Basically this way. Luckily Europe has its own central bank, because if it didn't, the external bank would be looking at Europe and saying, okay, Britain's looking a little bit shaky, we might have to look at its credit rating. But you would definitely be looking at Europe and saying, you've only got 2 companies now, 2 countries, bringing you a revenue stream, and one of them's far ahead of the other. You're letting go a country that was a big part of your revenue stream, and you're talking tough, like you're going to give them a hard deal if they don't fall into line with what you want when they leave your club. And it'll be a hard divorce. If you're starting to talk tough like that, we as the bank have to take that into account as to the damage we think you're going to suffer. Because remember, this is all just now while Germany's floating on a bubble of wealth and wealth creation. Heaven help them if Germany starts to go on the wane. Heaven help them if Britain leaving turns it into a a recession, because that would be seriously damaging. And any external bank would say, God, guys, sorry, we have to pull the plug a little bit on this credit we've given you. Luckily, they've got the European Central Bank, which is more or less in the pockets of the Germans. So I hate to say that by keeping it in-house, they're saving their own backside, but if it was a cold, calm external look at the finances of Europe, they wouldn't be very happy with the fact that they're concentrating their revenue stream on really just one or two countries now. Can that continue? Well, like I say, they only need to hit a bump in the road. I don't think Brexit's that bump in the road, but I think something else could be. So, what I said before holds true. Before we signed Article 50, they should have all got together with us in the UK and agreed a completely different Article 50, which more or less was the agreement that they're saying that we'll talk about later after we've sent the Article 50 letter in. You see, what they seek to do, the Germans especially, Merkel's talking tough, even though she's got an election coming in September, which I believe, September-October, which I believe she's going to lose. I don't think she'll be there, but it doesn't matter. Even if she is, she's there for a fourth term. Do the Germans not have another person that can run their country? Because that's a little bit worrying. They're putting an awful lot of eggs in that one basket. I'm just wondering, would it just take a health scare on Angela Merkel for the European Central Bank to lose confidence? I don't know. But they've put their eggs all in one basket for quite a while. Eventually the basket breaks, or you drop it or something. So that's a bump in the road that could come along. But they're talking tough when what you should have done is helped us to rewrite Article 50 before we ever signed it. And that would have been the smart thing to do. They failed to do that. Because then you would have it all agreed beforehand, and there would be this nasty divorce thing that everyone's talking about. Now we've been forced to have a resignation letter along the lines of Article 50, which is rotten to us because it says there's 27 on one side and 1 on the other. And it turns out, if everyone wants to be friendly, and actually it's in everyone's interest to be amicable, if everyone wants to be amicable and friendly, then we needn't have gone through the Article 50 thing. We could easily have wrangled it and agreed a nice transition without doing that. But instead, somebody wanted to put us through it. I don't know if it's Merkel, I don't know who it is, but to me, they shouldn't have been so keen for us to have a resignation letter, the big flurry, the big bang of the resignation letter. They should have seriously considered writing out the terms before we resigned, as it were. Indeed, you could go further back than that and say when David Cameron went to them and said, our previous Prime Minister said, oh, the British people are concerned about this, this and this. Maybe they should have thought radical reform might be required, because now, as somebody pointed out, as I talked about the This Week programme, Andrew Neil pointed out, he said, what are they going to do about the problems that we said were there that are now still there? We raised the thing about the euro, and we said, you know, what are you going to do? Greece is dreadful, and we didn't want to join it because we were concerned that maybe we'd lose control over our finances. Greece has lost control over its finances. Greece should have dropped out. It absolutely should, but instead, to try and hold the euro thing together, this single state that they're determined to have, the Germans, they've held on to them by crook or by crook, and it turns out it's quite a lot of crook, because really they should never join the euro, Greece, and keeping them in it is even more of a mistake. The misery that there have been suicides and all sorts of misery that that country is going to go through, as well as what it's gone through, the riots, all unnecessary if they had their own currency, or a second grade euro currency that they could use and freely trade at 3/4 or 2/3 the value of the main euro. I don't know how you do it. It sounds to me like they should be able to issue a note that just has a big word on the front, Greek, you know, Greek euro, and everyone knows it's worth 3/4 of what the real euro is worth, or something like that. Yes, effectively it's reinstating the old currency, but that works. Allowing the currency exchange to float works. Instead, Germany is going to judge everybody effectively, and Europe is at the behest of Germany more than ever now. All the power is getting more and more concentrated, and it's going to try and make one size fit all, and that's the size that suits Germany. And that can't suit Greece. It doesn't even suit France, which is going to be the second biggest donor once we leave. Absolutely shocking. Merkel might not even be there, but she certainly was the architect of a lot of the problems that made Britain feel it had to leave. So we might be the ones opening the door, but she's the one that slammed the other doors in our face. You know, I think Europe's got bigger problems. It's over-reliant now on Germany. A few bumps in the road. Maybe their arrogance will be tamed a bit. Thanks for watching and listening.